All right, guys. First homework assignment of this second semester. Gonna find exact trig values for these special angles, right? So number one was this tangent of theta, and then on the diagram it says that your angle is 60, which means that we have tangent of 60. So if you want, you can write in the 60 right here, 60 degrees like that, or you just leave it as tangent of theta. But we are trying to figure out what that is equal to. So tangent theta is equal, or tangent of 60 degrees is equal to what? Right, so utilizing your unit circle. So this is actually much easier than what we did in class because we're only looking for one thing, and we're looking for tangent of 60. So 60 degrees is right here. That's the angle right there, 60 degrees, right? So this is a measurement for 60 degrees. And tangent, we know, is going to be the sine, which is the y value, divided by the cosine, which is the x value. So we're doing radical 3 over 2 divided by 1 over 2. And this one, we're going to go ahead and multiply top and bottom by 2. Right? And if you guys feel better, you can put it 2 over 1 if you like. That way you can see the actual fractions. And by doing this, we are going to be able to cancel the 2's. And we are left with radical 3 over 1, or just radical 3. So tangent of 60 degrees is just radical 3. Okay, sine of theta, and in this case, theta is 225 degrees. Right? And again, if you want to put 225 degrees, you can, but you don't necessarily have to. Right? But we ultimately want to find out what that is equal to. So 225 degrees, and we're looking for just a sine. Oops. All right, so and it's in degrees, so it's a lot easier than the radian. And 225 degrees is starting here, and it's going to go all the way down to here. So that's where 225 degrees. Okay, and sine is just the y value. So sine of 225 degrees is just a y value right there on that coordinate. So it's negative radical 2 over 2. That's it. Okay, this one I'm just going to go ahead and write the answer down. Sine of theta, and theta is 90 degrees. So again, using our unit circle, sine of 90 degrees is right there. That's 90 degrees. The sine, again, is the y value. So the sine is 1. So sine of theta, or sine of theta when theta is 90 degrees, is equal to 1. Cosine of 150. Remember, cosine is going to be the x value. So 150 is right here. Okay. So cosine, remember, is the x value. So we're looking at negative radical 3 over 2 for that coordinate. Negative radical 3 over 2. So these are pretty straightforward. It's not like what we did in class where we had to go through all 6 of them. Number 5, just like number 3, we want the cosine of 90 degrees. Right? So again, I'm just going to go ahead and look at it. I'm not going to draw anymore. Right? Cosine 90 degrees, if you look at 90 degrees, cosine of 90 degrees, 90 degrees right here, cosine is going to be the x value, so that's going to be equal to 0. Okay, tangent of 240 degrees, number 6. All right, so I'm looking for tangent 240 degrees. 240 is down here. The tangent is going to be the sine, which is the y value. So I'm going to write that down. Negative radical 3 over 2 divided by the cosine, which is the x value. So the cosine is going to be negative 1/2. This one, I'm going to go ahead and use the same strategy. I'm going to multiply both the top and bottom by 2, or you can write it as 2 over 1. Okay, by doing that, your 2's are going to be diagonal from each other, and they're going to cancel. And you're going to be left with negative radical 3 over negative 1, which at the end of the day makes positive radical 3. Okay, so number 6, positive radical 3. Number 7, we need the cosine of 135 degrees. Not sure why he keeps doing that, but not a problem. It might bother you, but it doesn't bother me. All right, cosine of 135 degrees. So 135 is right here, and the cosine is going to be the x value. So you got negative radical 2 over 2. So that's equal to negative radical 2 over 2. A tangent of 150 degrees for number 8. So number 8, we got 150 degrees, and tangent is going to be the sine value. So I'm going to write that down, 1/2 divided by the cosine value, which is negative radical 3 over 2. This one's going to be a little bit special, right? Because, again, we could use the strategy of multiplying them by 2 over 1 to get rid of the 2, and that will get rid of the 2's because they're diagonal from each other. Okay, but we're going to get something a little special here. We're going to get 1 left over on top, and we're going to get negative radical 3 on the bottom. Okay, we need to rationalize that. So by rationalizing it, we need to multiply it by another radical 3. Okay, so that's going to give me negative, because a positive on top divided by a negative on the bottom is going to give me a negative. All right, so it's going to be negative. And then on the bottom, radical 3 times radical 3 is radical 9. And then 1 times radical 3 is 1 radical 3. Okay, and then we can tidy this up a bit. We don't need to have the 1 there, so it's just radical 3. And then you still have the negative in front. And radical 9, or the square root of 9, is just 3. So your answer is negative radical 3 over 3. Okay, and that is for the tangent of 150 degrees is negative radical 3 over 3. Okay, anytime if I am going a little fast, you can totally pause it, because this is just a video, and you can always rewind it or repeat it again. I don't think you guys use the word rewind. Okay, something I forgot to mention in class, you guys are only going to work up until, I believe, number 20. Okay, the rest of them are going to be periodic, meaning that they're more than one cycle of your unit circle. So you're going to work up to number 20 only. Okay. Number 9, cosine of 270 degrees. So going back to the unit circle. Actually, let me just paste that one on. Edit, paste. There we go. Then I'm going to lock it in place. Come on. Lock it in place. Okay. Actually, I don't know if I'm covering some. Let me see. Let's move it down. Oh, yeah, I am covering a whole bunch. Okay. Looks good now. So up to number 30. All right, so I'm going to leave it here, and then I'm going to go ahead and lock this in place. I thought that was too few, because I did say go up to number 20, but then it ended up at 24. So I'm like, there's only 4 left for the next day, which is not correct. Okay, so number 9, cosine 270 degrees. 270 degrees is down here. And the cosine is the x value, so that's going to be 0. So these are all pretty easy so far, because these are all in degrees. Right. Tangent of 225 degrees. So 225 is right here. And tangent is going to be the y value divided by the x value, okay, or the sine divided by the cosine. So I'm going to write that down. So tangent of 225 is going to be the y value, which is the negative radical 2 over 2 divided by the x value, which is the negative radical 2 over 2. Wow. This makes 1 because it's the same thing divided by each other. So tangent of 225 degrees is 1. Right? Cosine of 270 degrees. 270 degrees is down here, and the cosine is the x value. So x value is 0. Oh, I thought that was familiar because number 11 and number 9 are exactly the same thing. Right, sine of 0 degrees. Right, 0 degrees is right here. The sine is the y value, which is 0. So sine of 0 degrees is 0 also. All right, moving on. Okay, now it's a little bit more exciting. Cotangent of 7 pi over 4. So you're going to go to your unit circle, look for 7 pi divided by 4 if you can find it. Right, and it is right here. So 7 pi over 4, you're going to look at the coordinate, and we're looking at the cotangent. And that's for number 13. So cotangent, 7 pi divided by 4. Cotangent is going to be the cosine, which is the x, divided by the sine, which is the y. So cosine, which is radical 2 over 2, divided by the sine, which is the negative radical 2 over 2. And you notice they are both exactly the same, except the bottom is a negative. So basically, you're going to get negative 1. Right? Because these cancel, and you get basically 1 divided by negative 1, which is negative 1. Cosecant 2 pi over 3. Cosecant 2 pi divided by 3, right there. That's 2 pi divided by 3. And cosecant is based off of the sine, which is the y value, right? And cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine. So we have instead of radical 3 over 2, we have 2 over radical 3. And that's basically the answer, like I was telling some of you guys in class. This is the answer, okay? Except it's just not the preferred answer, okay? It is not preferred because there's a radical on the bottom. So we need to do something called rationalizing, which is we're going to multiply it by the bottom, which is radical 3, and then we're going to do the same thing on top, which is also radical 3. The reason why we can do this is radical 3 divided by radical 3 is just a big fat 1. If you multiply 1 by 2 over radical 3, it stays 2 over radical 3. So it doesn't change the value of it, right? But by multiplying it by radical 3 over radical 3, we get radical 9 on the bottom, and we get 2 radical 3 on top. Okay, you can't multiply 2, and you can't multiply the radical 3 because 2 is outside of the radical, 3 is inside the radical. The reason why we can do radical 9 on the bottom is because the 3 is inside the radical, and that 3 is also inside the radical. So you can multiply both of those 3's together to make 9, and it stays inside the radical. Okay, but radical 9 is actually just a 3. So on the bottom we get 3, and on top we get 2 radical 3. And no, you cannot cancel the 3 from the outside and 3 from the inside like how I just did. You cannot do that because outside and inside cannot cancel with each other. Okay, you could cancel an outside and an outside like this, but 2 and a 3 will not cancel. So you can't do anything there. And that is your final answer, 2 radical 3 over 3. So cosecant of 2 pi over 3 is going to be 2 radical 3 over 3. Final answer. Okay, number 15. Back to degrees, 225 degrees, and I want the cosecant of that. So 225 degrees right there, and the cosecant is going to be based off of the sine if you're looking at your notes that we got today. So there's a sine, is negative radical 2 over 2, and the cosecant is based off of that, which is the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of negative radical 2 over 2 is going to be 2 over radical 2, and it's a negative, right? So that's technically, like I said in class, this is the answer. It is just not the preferred answer. So we're going to do something called rationalizing, like I just did earlier. Multiply top and bottom by the radical 2, and we're going to get negative 2 radical 2 over, and both of these 2's are on the inside, so I can actually go ahead and put them together to make radical 4. And then we know that radical 4 is going to be 2. On top, it's still going to be 2 and radical 2. Okay? And no, we cannot multiply the 2 and the radical 2 together because the first 2 is outside of the radical and the second 2 is on the inside of the radical. So you can't put them together. But seeing it like this, I can now cancel the 2 on the outside with the other 2 on the bottom on the outside because they're both not in the radical. So they cancel, and we will be left with negative radical 2. If you want, you can put a 1 underneath, but it is not necessary. So it looks a lot cleaner with just negative radical 2 for 225 degrees, which is number 15. Okay. 16, 300 degrees. We want the sine of that. This one should be easy. 300 degrees is right there, and the sine is going to be the y value. So we're looking at just that value, negative radical 3 over 2. Okay. 17, cosecant of 90 degrees. Okay, 90 degrees right here. Cosecant is based off of the sine, which is the 1, and cosecant is going to be the reciprocal of that. So let's see what happens, right? So I have 1, right? And the reciprocal of 1, so 1 looks like this, okay? But if I'm going to do a reciprocal, I need to make sure I have something on the bottom. So if it's a whole number, I actually have a 1 on the bottom, okay? So if I take the reciprocal of 1, okay, it's going to turn into, and that's a squiggly arrow if you can't figure out what I'm drawing there. Okay, so 1 over 1, so the reciprocal of 1 over 1 is going to be, okay, so that bottom 1 now goes to the top, and that top 1 now goes to the bottom, which is 1 over 1 still, right? So the reciprocal of 1, okay, because 1 is the sine value, but we want the cosecant, which is the reciprocal. So we want to do the reciprocal of 1, which is still 1 over 1, which comes out to be 1. Okay, tangent 240 degrees. So 240 degrees right here. Tangent is going to be the sine value divided by the cosine value. So tangent is the sine, which is the y, negative radical 3 over 2, divided by the cosine, which is the x value, negative 1/2. Okay, and I think we've done something similar to this before, like earlier today, okay, or earlier in this homework assignment. I'm going to go ahead and multiply both the top and bottom by 2. And you can put this 2 over 1 if you like, but 2 is just fine. You can go ahead and cancel the 2 from the diagonals, and you will be left with negative radical 3 over negative 1. And negative divided by negative is positive, and radical 3 divided by 1 is just radical 3. Right? So your answer for that tangent of 240 is going to be radical 3. Nope, no negative because the negatives cancel out. Okay, almost done. Two more. Sine of pi over 4. Pi over 4 right there. Sine is just the y value. So it's just radical 2 over 2. Okay, sine of pi over 4 is just the y value at pi over 4. So the coordinate for pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2, comma radical 2 over 2. And the sine is just a y, so you get radical 2 over 2. Okay, lastly, tangent of 120 degrees. We'll finish off with number 20. Tangent of 120 degrees. 120 is, oh, right here. This one we haven't done yet. So sine, excuse me, tangent of 120 degrees for number 20. Right, so number 20, tangent of 120 degrees. So tangent is going to be the, if you look in your notes, if you don't remember, it is going to be the sine, which is the y value. So radical 3 over 2 divided by the cosine, which is the x value, which is negative 1/2. Okay, and we're going to utilize the same strategy because we have a fraction over a fraction. We're going to go ahead and multiply it by 2, and that will allow us to cancel these 2's diagonally, and we will have radical 3 left on top and negative 1 left on the bottom. So radical 3 over negative 1, it's just going to be negative radical 3. So number 20, tangent of 120 degrees is negative radical 3. Okay, and we'll stop there. I apologize. I forgot to tell you not to go from 21 to 30 because um, these are periodic, meaning that they're going to contain another circle, or maybe two more circles, or maybe three more circles. So we'll talk about how to do that tomorrow. All right, but that is a wrap.